Today, I'll be answering whether the God Roll crafted Austringer is the #1 legendary hand cannon in the game. Legendary 140s have stiff competition in the category. The Palindrome Adept is a range beast, the AS Luna has great stats across the board, and the Fatebringer has explosive payload which gives you magical powers. Heck, you even have the Cantata with the goated opening shot and Eye of the Storm combination. So where does this crafted Austringer God Roll sit in amongst those guns? First of all, let's have a look at the God Roll I crafted for myself and why I chose those perks specifically before we start comparing. I crafted a Hammerforge Rifling, Ricochet Rounds, Enhanced Eye of the Storm, Enhanced Rangefinder roll with a Range Masterwork. For the barrel, I wanted to max the range out, but without sacrificing on handling or stability. Full bore and extended barrel give a penalty to handling and stability, and as you'll see later on, the Austringer doesn't have great handling to start with. You really cannot afford to lose any more handling on this gun, so that's why Hammerforge Rifling just edged the other two perks out. There is an argument for small bore, as you only lose about half a meter of range for a nice little bump in stability, but I found that surpassing the 70 range mark overall on the Austringer helped with stickiness out on those further ranges. For the magazine, Ricochet Rounds gives you a nice range bump and a great stability boost. I've started to move away from high cal rounds and hand cannons. Testing for this perk is not exactly definitive whether it does actually increase flinch for low RPM weapons like a hand cannon, so I decided to go for a perk like Ricochet Rounds where I know I'm getting a benefit from it. For the perks, I went for Enhanced Eye of the Storm. Now this is the god tier perk on this hand cannon. When you're low health, you get a huge accuracy boost and a handling boost, and with the enhanced version of this perk, you get a flat boost to stability as well. For PvP specifically, the other perks in this column do not compete one bit with Eye of the Storm. That accuracy and handling boost you get when you're low health is so palpable and gets you out of so many sticky situations. Air Assault for me at this point in time just isn't enough of a good perk. Relying on you getting damage before your airborne effectiveness is increased isn't great, as often you want to start off engagements within the air, and Air Assault doesn't really do that. And also I'll discuss later why the small increment it does give at the start isn't enough. Moving on to column 2, I ended up going for Enhanced Rangefinder, which pushes out the range of this gun by a whopping 3 meters. As a result, the gun had an incredible effective range of 34.94 meters before damage fall off. Now the main competition for column 2 is Enhanced Opening Shot, and there's a fairly compelling argument to run this on shorter range maps. Now as you'd expect, Austringer felt incredible on that last shot in a tight duel. It honestly did because of Eye of the Storm. This is probably the best hand cannon in the game for that final shot. I've never felt such a forgiving hitbox for that final shot when I'm low health. But for some reason, that first shot, often when I'm not under fire or even under any sort of pressure, just doesn't feel as good as some of the other big 140 hand cannons. And I'm going to talk about why later in the comparison section. Now, opening shot provides more accuracy and range on that first shot, and then subsequently the magnitude of bloom is less. Bloom is where the more you shoot, the larger your accuracy cone grows, so that shots can randomly go within that larger cone. Things like pacing your shots can help to negate bloom and let your accuracy cone go back to pinpoint levels, but it's not ideal when you're trying to outgun your opponent as fast as possible. Now, opening shot and Eye of the Storm is a god tier pairing. As you have an accuracy bump for your first shot, then subsequently less bloom for your second and third shots, at that point, you get an accuracy boost from Eye of the Storm when you'll be low health in duel anyways. This is also the first time we've had enhanced opening shot on hand cannon, and it says it greatly increases range and accuracy for the first shot. And when I tested it out, my god, that first shot really did feel great with enhanced opening shot, and it really negated that downside of Austringer. The big glaring issue, however, of running opening shot was that I lost 3 meters of range overall, which was just too much for a lot of maps in Destiny. If you are playing on a smaller map, think Exodus Blue, then I would recommend switching to enhanced opening shot for column 2. Otherwise, for most other maps, you will need that 34 to 35 meters of range that Enhanced Rangefinder provides. Now let's look at the stats for the big hand cannons in comparison to Austringer to see whether we can explain why it doesn't feel great on that first shot. As you can see, Austringer has the worst aim assist out of all the big hand cannons at base, which may explain why it didn't feel so great on that first shot. It does, however, have a very healthy amount of range, and because of its superior barrel options in comparison to AS Luna's sights, it actually ends up having the same effective range of around 35 meters despite AS Luna having better base range as you can see than Austringer. Only the Adept Palindrome ends up beating it hands down because of its superior base stats and access to Adept range or Adept Icarus grip. As I mentioned before, this gun really lacks handling, so you really cannot afford to lose any more with some of the other barrel options. The gun does, however, have very good stability, which will help with flinch reduction, and it's got the best recoil direction I've seen across any legendary hand cannon. It's got a recoil direction of 95, which is perfectly vertical. You want a recoil direction number to end in 5 or 0, which means the recoil pattern will be vertical, and then you want the number to be as high as possible, so ideally 95 or 100, so that the magnitude of recoil is less. So, for example, say a recoil direction of 55 ends in a 5, it will be worse than say 95 because it's a smaller number. This gun's high stability and great recoil direction make it feel so smooth when you're firing shots continuously. As you can see, the gun's airborne effectiveness stat is the lowest across the big hand cannons, but in all honesty, unless you have a total of like 50 or 60 airborne effectiveness, every gun feels awful in the air, so I wouldn't worry about this stat for most builds. The one thing I will say is that a Fatebringer with explosive payload feels like the most superior gun in the air now, even using something like Stompies. And that's because explosive payload makes your missed shots much more forgiving. Miss a person, but sometimes the explosion can sometimes hit them for damage. I found Fatebringer with explosive payload to be the superior hand cannon choice on console when I wanted to play aggressively in the air. So what's the final verdict? Well, the Austringer to me is extremely powerful because of its access to craftable enhanced perks. Eye of the Storm, Opening Shot, Rangefinder are all S tier perks which were previously only all found on the Cantata, which to me had inferior stats across the board. Now we have those same perks on a great hand cannon. The Austringer has great range, which is only bested by a God Roll Palindrome Adept, which you can't actually obtain anymore, but the Palindrome Adept does not have S tier perks like Opening Shot or Eye of the Storm in the first column. Most people end up just going for something like Quick Draw. Austringer also has an amazing base recoil direction and stability, so it feels really smooth to fire. As I mentioned before, I think the main glaring weakness it has with a rangefinder role is that first shot, but a hand cannon targeting mod can really help to negate that. And also, at the moment, nearly all weapons feel terrible in the air, apart from a Fatebringer with explosive payload, which for me is the clear winner for in-air play. So, for grounded play, especially against other good players who will get your health down to low, this gun is the king for me. And for that reason alone, this gun and this role specifically is a must-have for any serious PvP player. Beyond tangible stats, there was just something about this weapon that reminded me of a Destiny 1 hand cannon which I loved using, and for that reason alone, I don't think I'll be unequipping this gun for a while. If you made it this far, remember to like the video and subscribe for more upcoming Destiny content. I'm Mr. On It, and that's it for today. Peace out.